You will be shocked to learn that there is a new God emerging within the church, and he represents a mortal danger to Christians. In the next few minutes, I will reveal Satan's plan for a new religion to infiltrate the church without people realizing it. The information I will reveal will be strong, but necessary. Get ready to understand how your pastor is being used by the devil, and with each service he holds, hundreds of souls are being condemned to hell, including yours. Imagine you are on a hot summer day and you are dying of thirst. You run to get a glass of water from the tap, but when you get there, not a single drop comes out. Now, think about that feeling of thirst, but instead of water, it is for spiritual knowledge and guidance from God. Here is what Amos 8 verses 11 to 12 says, "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will send a famine upon the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. They will walk from one sea to another, from the north to the east, they will run everywhere, seeking the word of the Lord, but they will not find it." So these verses describe a time when people are spiritually hungry but cannot find food for their souls. They anxiously look for guidance from God, but there seem to be no answers available. And why are there no answers? Will the Bible no longer exist? No, my brother, this moment will be a consequence of our spiritual negligence and the new religion that is affecting all Christians. This new religion that I am referring to can be understood through what is written in 2 Timothy 4 verses 3 to 4. "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but, having a great desire to hear pleasant things, they will gather for themselves teachers according to their own desires, and will not only turn their ears away from the truth, but will turn to fables." Paul begins this passage by prophesying about a future time that he foresees. He warns Timothy of a coming period in the church where people will no longer tolerate sound doctrine. Here, sound doctrine refers to the solid, fundamental teachings of the Christian faith. Paul is indicating that there will be a time when these essential teachings will no longer be welcomed or accepted by church members. Pay attention that the aversion to teachings will begin in the house of God, and this will happen through false prophets. In 2 Peter 2 verse 1 there is an important warning that says, "But there were also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you, who will secretly bring in destructive heresies, denying even the Lord who bought them, bringing upon themselves sudden perdition." This verse is talking about people who pretend to be good religious leaders, but in reality, they are teaching wrong things that will lead us away from God's path. They talk nice and seem trustworthy, but they are spreading lies about God and distorting what he teaches in the Bible. For example, imagine someone who says that we don't need to follow Jesus' teachings or that God doesn't care what we do. These are ideas that contradict what the Bible teaches. These people can attract others to follow these false ideas, and thus everyone stays away from God's truth, which is bad for everyone. Continuing to reflect on Paul's words, he then says, "But having a great desire to hear pleasant things, they will gather for themselves teachers according to their own desires." In this part, Paul describes how people behave during this time of rejection of sound doctrine. He notes that instead of seeking the truth, people will seek to hear only what is pleasing to them. They will look for teachers or leaders who tell them what they want to hear, even if those teachings are distorted or contrary to biblical truth. This suggests a preference for comfort and convenience over commitment to truth. And this creates an opening for the influence of false teachers, as people are more interested in comfort and personal satisfaction than in true doctrine. This preference for listening to teachings that are convenient and enjoyable can lead people to become victims of religious leaders who distort the truth to please their followers. These false prophets can tell people exactly what they want to hear, even if it is false or contrary to what the Bible teaches. And they will not only turn their ears away from the truth, but will turn to fables. Paul continues describing the gravity of the situation by saying that people not only reject the truth, but will also turn to myths and fables. This means that they choose to hear only what suits them and deviate from the truth, opting for fictitious narratives. This ideology, called selfishness, places excessive value on power and personal achievements, often neglecting biblical teachings and the divine presence. Many motivational leaders, some even pretending to be religious leaders, propagate this belief, which suggests that success is purely the result of individual effort, ignoring the existence of God. They disguise themselves as motivational speakers, self-help gurus, or cult leaders, promising the world and the bottom without mentioning Jesus, let alone the Bible. They preach the power of the human mind, positivity, and even the law of attraction as the only ingredients needed to achieve success. And the worst? They do this in captivating ways, through self-improvement events, best-selling books, viral videos, and online courses. But does not stop there. Some of these charlatans have no qualms about financially exploiting their followers, asking for exorbitant donations or selling expensive products and services, all in the name of a better, happier life. This religion that calls itself self-righteousness totally excludes God, denying him the glory that is due to him. It is an evil faith that worships man and his earthly instincts, resulting in immeasurable consequences, as nothing beneficial can arise from selfish motivations. It makes people think that they only depend on themselves to be successful in life, leaving God completely aside. But look, this is a trap. Just imagine, this idea that we are the only ones responsible for our success may seem cool, but it is a trap. Because when we put ourselves at the center of everything, ignoring God, we end up doing selfish and harmful things, you know? It's as if the person became a machine for seeking power and success, without caring about anything else. This creates a society where people only think about themselves, without worrying about others. And, let's face it, that's not a good thing. True success is not just about having money or power. It's about being a good person, who cares about others and who seeks something greater than just his own interests. No, that seeking financial success is wrong. On the contrary, we must seek a comfortable life for our family. However, this should be done in moderation. In Proverbs 30 verses 8 to 9 it is written, "Give me only what I need to live, otherwise I may be so satisfied that I will end up denying you and saying, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I could become so poor that I end up stealing and desecrating the name of my God." Imagine you have a jug where you store water to drink throughout the day. You know you need water to stay hydrated and healthy, but you also know that you can't drink too much water at once or you'll make yourself uncomfortable and even sick. So every morning, you ask God to fill your pitcher with just the right amount of water, not too much, not too little. If your pitcher is too full, you may be tempted to waste water by letting it spill and not appreciating what you have. Or worse, you may start to feel so satisfied with the amount of water that you have to forget to thank God for providing it. On the other hand, if your jug is very empty, you may feel anxious about whether you will have enough water to last all day. This can even cause you to make hasty decisions, such as drinking water from questionable sources. So, by asking God for just enough to fill your jar, you are trusting Him to take care of your daily needs, but you are also taking responsibility to use what you receive wisely. It's all about trusting God to provide what you need and at the same time being responsible in the way you manage what you receive. And how would a person understand this if he denies the existence of God? This is the big problem with the new self-righteousness religion. When you live your life based on your own wants and desires, you will fail and live a miserable and empty life, even if at first everything seems perfect, but it will all be an illusion. In Romans 7 verses 18 to 19 there is a brilliant message that sums up our current world. See what it says. "For I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, there dwells no good thing, for to desire good is in me, not, however, carry it out. Because I don't do the good I prefer, but the evil I don't want, that's what I do." Now, imagine yourself on a journey full of challenges, where you are fighting your own inner demons, looking for a better job, trying to sort out your marriage or trying to fix anything that is wrong in your life. You know you need help to overcome these obstacles, but suddenly you go to church and when you get there you find the pastor saying that everything depends on you, that you just need to think positive, practice the law of attraction or even buy an online course that will have a miraculous step-by-step guide that will give you the life of your dreams. Excited by this idea, you dive headfirst into this new life. You try your hardest, working tirelessly and ignoring any thoughts about depending on something bigger than yourself. You are determined to prove that you can achieve everything on your own. You ignore the Bible, the teachings of Jesus, you don't pray anymore, you don't go to church unless it's to listen to your favorite pastor, of course. All you need to do is remember that it all depends on you, you can do it all alone. At first, everything seems to be going well. You are making progress on your goals and feel invincible. But then, challenges start to arise. Complex problems that you cannot solve alone, obstacles that seem insurmountable. You find yourself increasingly overwhelmed and unable to handle everything on your own. That's when reality knocks on your door. You realize that your own strengths have limitations. His pride begins to give way in the face of the evidence of his weakness. You feel lost and helpless, not knowing where to turn. That pastor tells you that maybe you need another course, another book, or do more repetitions of positive affirmations in the morning. Before we continue, just remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you trust in God and like content like this. Continuing our content, do you realize that in this new religion it is as if we were God himself who can solve everything alone? In James 4 verse 6 is a clear warning that says, "But he gives greater grace." Therefore the scripture says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. In this verse, James gives us a lesson on the rules of the spiritual game. He says that God is not a fan of the proud, those who boast, thinking they can do everything themselves, as if they were superheroes without capes. No, God doesn't do well with that kind of attitude. Imagine you, all full of yourself, trying to solve all your problems alone, without even looking up towards the sky. You are so caught up in your own abilities and achievements that you forget who the real boss is. You are totally controlled by this new religion. But then, you find yourself face to face with a wall of challenges and problems that you cannot break down. It feels like you're fighting alone, and that's when things start to go wrong. But here comes the twist. James tells us that God is all in favor of the humble. These are the guys who recognize that they can't do everything alone, that sometimes they need a little help from above. And, believe me, God loves it. So, instead of bragging about it, you decide to humble yourself before God. You admit that you are not as invincible as you thought, and that you need divine guidance and help. It's as if you take a step back and allow God to take control of the steering wheel of your life. And do you know what happens? God throws a lot of grace at you. It gives you that extra strength, that accurate guidance, that calm in the middle of the storm. It's as if you are surfing the wave of divine grace, and everything starts to flow much better than before. So, the lesson is clear: leave pride aside and embrace humility. If you want to do well in this game of life, you better recognize that God is the true master. When you humble yourself before him, he steps in and gives you that helping hand you so desperately need. And then, with God by your side, there is no challenge you cannot overcome. However, what if you refuse to do this? What happens? In Jeremiah 2 verse 19 there is a very clear warning that says the following: "Your own evil will punish you, your apostasies will condemn you. Know therefore and see how bitter and painful it is to have forsaken the Lord your God and lack the word that taught you, saying, Is this not what will happen to you? And now, how do you go astray along the path of Egypt to drink the waters of the Nile?" This verse warns us about trusting ourselves too much and ignoring God. When we rely only on our own wisdom and judgment, we are following a path that will lead to our own destruction. It is as if we are condemning ourselves by making decisions based only on our own thoughts and ideas, without considering what God teaches us. Relating this to the idea of self-righteousness, we see how this can get us into trouble. When we view ourselves as the supreme judge of our own lives, we run the risk of straying from divine principles and facing negative consequences. The verse reminds us of the importance of recognizing our dependence on God and following his path. He warns us about the dangers of blindly trusting our own ideas and encourages us to remain faithful to divine principles to avoid spiritual problems. It is a call to humility and submission before God's authority in our lives. There is another reason that leads people to follow this new religion, which is the search for an easy life, a life without principles that guide all our actions. Realize that in addition to acting as if they can do anything, these people also want to live a life where everything is right. As long as they achieve what they want, nothing else matters. See what is written in Matthew 7 verses 24 to 25. "Therefore, whoever hears these words of mine and does them is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain fell, the rivers surged, the winds blew and they struck that house, and it did not fall, because its foundations were on the rock." In this scenario, Jesus tells us a story full of important lessons. He talks about a wise man who not only listens to his teachings, but puts them into practice. This man is like an experienced builder who chose solid ground to build his house. When the storm hits the house, it doesn't falter. It is founded on strong rock. It is as if Jesus is showing us that when we build our lives on the solid foundation of faith and obedience to God, we are able to face adversity with courage and determination. On the other hand, imagine a house built on quicksand. It looks solid from the outside, but when the storm hits, it collapses in an instant. Imagine you are at a crossroads, with different paths in front of you. One of these paths seems wide and easy, full of promises of wealth and success. It is like a shining road that attracts with the promise of comfort and recognition. On the other hand, there is a narrow and challenging path, less visible but full of meaning and purpose. This path does not offer guarantees of material riches or fame, but rather asks for faith and trust in something greater than yourself. Jesus, like a wise guide, is there to guide you. He warns you about the dangers of following the broad path, where the pursuit of riches and exclusive confidence in your own abilities can lead you into trouble. He likens it to building a house on sand, which is unstable and prone to falling apart. So, he invites you to consider the narrow path of faith and trust in God. Although it may seem challenging, this is where you will find a solid and secure foundation for your life. It's where you'll discover true wealth that goes beyond money, and experience a peace that can't be found anywhere else. By warning us about these dangers, Jesus invites us to make a conscious choice: follow the easy and superficial path, or opt for the path of faith and trust in God. It is a simple journey, full of decisions to be made, but one that offers the promise of a full and meaningful life alongside our Creator. My brother, after everything we talked about, I hope you feel challenged to live the gospel of Jesus Christ. This means valuing humility, unity, and compassion in our lives. Humility, often misinterpreted as weakness, is actually a powerful quality. It is not about diminishing ourselves, but about recognizing our dependence on something greater than ourselves. Looking at the life of Jesus, we see the ultimate example of humility. He, being God himself, chose to empty himself of his glory to serve humanity. Imagine, the King of Kings, washing the feet of his disciples, living with the marginalized and even sacrificing his own life for us. This shows us that true greatness is not in putting yourself above others, but in putting yourself at their service. When we follow Jesus' example, we set aside our pride and selfishness. It makes us more kind, compassionate, and humble in our interactions with others. We recognize that we are all on the same journey, fighting our own battles, and that at the end of the day, we all need each other. Furthermore, humility helps us trust in God's grace. Instead of trying to do everything on our own, we opened ourselves up to receive guidance and support from Him. This frees us from the pressure to be perfect and allows us to live more authentically, trusting that God is in control. In short, humility is not about putting ourselves down, but about opening up to something bigger than ourselves. By following Jesus' example and recognizing our dependence on God, we are empowered to live more meaningfully, embracing kindness, compassion, and humility in all areas of our lives. Unity is crucial to the Christian community. Jesus called us to be united as He is with the Father. This is not just agreement on doctrines, but a deep bond of love and mutual support. When we unite around the truth of the gospel, we overcome divisions and strengthen each other. Compassion is not just a feeling, it is the way Christian love manifests itself in action. Looking at Jesus as our example, we see that He not only talked about compassion, but practiced it in His daily life. Jesus was not content with just talking about love, He showed it in His actions. He healed the sick, fed the hungry, and welcomed the marginalized. He did not distinguish between people, but He reached out to help everyone, regardless of who they were. In the Christian community, we are called to follow this example. This means helping those around us who are struggling, offering practical, emotional, and spiritual support whenever possible. It means being attentive to the needs of others and doing what we can to help. Furthermore, compassion leads us to transcend social and cultural barriers, welcoming foreigners and marginalized people. It's not just about caring for our own community, but about reaching out to those outside of it, showing them the love and inclusion that Jesus taught us. When we live with compassion, we not only change the lives of those we help, but we also show the world God's love in action. Our actions speak louder than our words, and it is through our care and compassion for others that we reveal the essence of the gospel, a gospel of love, grace, and redemption. So may we embrace compassion as a way of life, following in the footsteps of Jesus and being agents of change in our communities and beyond. May we reach out to help, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and welcome strangers, showing the world God's transforming love in action. Therefore, it is time to reject the idea of self-righteousness and embrace the truth of the gospel. Let us live with humility, unity, and compassion, so that our faith is authentic and relevant. May we be true disciples of Christ, spreading His love and grace wherever we go. Thank you very much for watching this video until the end. Leave a comment telling us what you thought of the content of the video. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be notified when we post a new video.